Anybody hear me?
Yes.
Are you Mr. Slingerland?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you have video capacity, Mr. Slingerland? I'm Judge Sara Smolenski.
I am on video.
Now I see you. I wasn't seeing you before, so it wasn't all the way connected. You're in your car.
Yes, I'm actually in my semi.
Okay. Are you stopped or are you driving?
I am stopped. I just got stopped
Okay.
actually when you were connecting.
Okay. So when we're talking about this case with a charge of malicious use of a telephone communication, they're just talking
Okay.
about a telephone.
Yes.
It's a criminal misdemeanor, Mr. Slingerland. It has the possible penalty of 6 months in jail, up to $1,000 fine. Court costs can be on top of that. I know that you talked to the prosecuting attorney and they recommended no jail. I would follow that recommendation, but the decision that you make has to be your decision, not your
Okay.
family or the prosecutor or your friends. You have to make your decision based on whatever happened between you and this David Parsons or his family. When you go forward on the case,
Okay.
you have the right to plead guilty or not guilty. You have the right to have a trial in front of a judge or a jury. You have the right to have an attorney. Today, it's just you and me talking to each other. So if you go forward on this case and plead to it, you will not have an attorney and you will not have a trial of any kind. Once a person pleads guilty, we don't have a trial. So then people give up their right to bring in witnesses, cross-examine witnesses, take the stand yourself, be a witness if you wanted to. If you chose not to, your silence cannot be held against you. You have the right to be presumed innocent until proven guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. Can you think of any questions about what I'm saying that you have?
No.
No questions. Are you currently on
was,
probation? Go ahead.
No, I was just this thing. I don't know.
I'm just asking if you
somebody I was
have.
talking
I'm just
to.
asking if you have any questions about what I've just said.
Oh no.
So, are you on probation or parole at all? Right now, do you
No.
have any other cases in any other courts?
Just friend of the court.
Okay. So if you go back to April
I'm
30th.
dealing with trying to get my kids back.
Yep. And that's kind of what started, it sounds like, this whole thing.
Yes.
Going back to April 30th, which is already almost 6 months ago, As to that charge of malicious use of a telecommunication service, how do you want to plead to that misdemeanor?
I'm plead guilty.
Is it your decision?
Yes.
Has
I'm here by
anybody-
myself.
Okay, I get you're by yourself right now, but has anybody in your family or your friends or anybody forced you to do this?
No. I just want to put this behind me and be able to
And
move
I
on.
appreciate that. And by putting it behind you, you're also taking responsibility that the actions you took in reaching out to this David Parsons or his wife were inappropriate, correct?
Yes.
So because you realized he was somehow involved in contacting authorities about your kids, you were upset and frustrated by the entire process, so you started making threats against him or his wife?
They were not direct threats, but yes.
Yeah. It was meant to scare them, wasn't it? Meant to put them on alert. Like, you used the words in your messages. Was it text or telephone?
It was text.
So you actually used words like telling the wife, his wife, that there's a bounty out for him?
I said, yes, I said that there was I knew somebody that had a bounty on him. I did not say anything about myself.
Okay.
But
But
yes,
I mean,
did say that.
realistically, the whole intent The whole intent was to scare them and cause them some fear or terror, correct?
Yes, just try to get into his head a little bit.
So you were trying to get back at them or him.
Yes.
And truthfully speaking, there was no other person that had a bounty on him. You made that up.
Correct.
But they don't know that. They didn't know that at the time, correct?
Correct.
When you use the language of the statute with this malicious use of a telecommunication service, it says you have the intent to terrorize, frighten, intimidate, threaten, harass, molest, annoy, or disturb the peace and quiet of this David Parsons. And actually, even though you never were intending to do anything and it was made up, your aggravation and frustration with him is what motivated you to get back at him in this way of terror or frightening them or intimidating them, correct?
Correct.
How many times do you think you texted his wife or him or the mother or whoever it is? How many times would you have texted them?
We actually used to talk all the time. We were friends at one point, and then
So you and
we met
David
up
were
over.
friends?
Yes.
Like from school?
And then, no, we've known each other
As
about
adults?
2.5, 3 years. Yes.
Okay.
About two and a half, 3 years.
So I'm asking just about this incident when you had it with him and that you sent messages about your frustration. Was that 1 time, 5 times, 10 times? How many times? Ballpark?
I couldn't tell you. Because we had several. Yeah, I think it'd be several. It's been a while, but we actually had a long talk about all that or conversation back and forth.
Mr. Slingerland, go ahead.
Yes.
Go ahead.
So actually, I don't know if the state picked it up or he was pressing it or anything, because over the summer, before we even knew anything about all this, actually he met up. We seen each other at the lake and we hung out.
So you
and
had more of a cordial. You had more of a cordial contact with him this summer.
Yeah, before I even knew all this stuff was going on, I didn't know about
it goes back to April 30th, so
or a warrant or anything.
Right. May 19 is when they got the warrant. But you're pleading guilty today because it's 19. True.
Yeah, I didn't know. Yes, I did say it.
All right, I appreciate it. And I don't know the details of your kids. I don't know the details of the family law stuff or friend of the court. But I mean, you're an adult. In anybody's book, you're an adult. And you got to figure out how you're going to conduct yourself. And I'm not Houdini or Oprah or Dr. Phil. And I get that there's some dysfunction with your family structure. But it is not helping you at all getting your kids in any kind of a situation where you get to see them all the time to have yourself be involved in something like this. This does not help you. It more likely hurts you. Do you get that?
Yes.
And in relation, hurts the kids, if you ask me. Because I mean, I don't doubt you love your kids. I don't even know how many kids there are. How many are there?
I have 3 and one on the way.
So let's just say none of it's easy for them. Those kids, it's not easy for them, and they didn't ask for all this.
All right.
You're the adult, and you're supposed to be setting a better example. That's what I'm saying. Do you get me, Mr. Slingerland?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so you want to put this all behind you. I'm suggesting that you start abiding by the rules and make better decisions. We all get frustrated. Hell, we're going through one of the worst time of our lives right now with this damn pandemic. People can't get more frustrated with what's happening. They're losing their jobs. They're losing their housing. I mean, people are dying. Well, let's just start with that. How about that? People are dying. It's not an easy time. Add that to all the regular stress that people have just before COVID. So I'm not saying that people don't get frustrated, upset, angry, but how you act out Okay, really, I'm not your mother. I'm probably old enough to be your older mother, but here's my point. You know better. This never should have happened. This never should have happened. We shouldn't even be talking right now because you never should have done what you did with them. You never should have been through the court system. This shouldn't have been a case because you shouldn't have called and trash talked like you did or text like you did. I mean, what is the point? Helps you feel
Right.
better for 5 minutes thinking I got you, jackass? And no, look who's charged.
Right.
You get what I'm saying, Mr. Slingerland? And you're
Yes, I
there
know,
to be
and I
the
let
role
my
model?
yes,
ahead.
and I know I let my anger get the best of me.
Yeah. Well, we all can let the anger get the best of you, but when you're involved in criminal activity, that's the time to say, whoa, stop. Don't do this. You're smarter than this. Even though you're angry, we all get angry. You let it act out, you come back, you're sitting in jail. On this case, I'm going to put you on probation for 6 months. It's a non-reporting probation. I'm not going to babysit you, but I want to see
Okay.
that you have no connection with the criminal justice system starting today for 6 months. Just say that's the end of April or whatever, next year. You don't do
Okay.
any jail time on this case. It's held over your head. 6 months of jail suspended with 1 day credit for when they took you into custody. That means you have jail over your head. You stay squeaky clean, no problems with me. You mess up, I don't care if it's with this Parsons family or somebody else. I don't care if you get a drunk driving. Well, I do care, but you know what I mean. Any criminal case would land you in trouble with me in the
Okay.
next 6 months on this case. It's a
Okay.
$500 fine. 180 is the fee for probation. 75 is the crime victim's right fee. So your monetary fines altogether are $755, which is a lot of money. You can take
Yeah.
time to pay it. We can set up a payment plan. Any bond money you had can be applied, but be smart about how you conduct yourself from here on out. That's all I'm asking you to. I
Okay.
can't say don't ever get mad again. We all get mad. In our lives, we have stuff happen. But you got to be the adult. Deal with it accordingly. Okay?
Okay. All
All
right.
right. Thanks for hooking up with me, Mr. Slingerland. Is the address that you're still at the address that we can use for mailing on Southbrook?
No, it is
What's the
at
address?
1700
Yep.
Center Avenue,
Uh-huh.
Grand Rapids,
Yep.
Michigan,
Okay. Zip.
49545. I believe.
Is there an
We
apartment
just
number?
moved. No, it's we just moved
Just
in.
1700 Center. All right, we'll
Yes.
check that. We'll check that zip code. But you'll expect to get mail from our court. Then follow
Okay.
05? 05, Amanda?
Okay.
We think
Okay.
it's 49505.
That okay. That sounds
It's
about right.
northeast. Is that northeast?
Yes.
Okay. All right, you're all set. Thanks for hooking up, Mr. Slingerland.
Yep. No problem.
All right, thank you.
Yep.
Is it Amanda Wen?
Yes.
Ms. Wen, thanks for waiting. I appreciate it. My name is Judge Sara Smolenski. I'm at the 63rd District Court right now. We've got you on video, Zoom, on this case when you were charged with the drug offense of knowingly or intentionally possessing methamphetamine. It's a 10-year felony. This is file D20-02616-FY. We have Mr. Miller here, and Mr. Norm Miller is the attorney, I believe, that's representing you on this case, correct, Mr. Miller?
That is, Your Honor.
Okay. And so, Ms. Wen, today is actually scheduled for what they call the probable cause conference on your drug-related felony case that happens to have a misdemeanor attached to it, which is a driving suspended charge that goes back a couple of weeks ago. Today's the 23rd of October. This was the 8th of October, on or about the location of 10 Mile Road up by M37. That that probable cause conference is for you and your attorney to talk a little bit about the case and see what's happening. Mr. Tarango is connected with our Zoom. He's the assistant prosecuting attorney. Mr. Miller, you've seen the offer that's been made that if Ms. Wen pled as charged to the possession of methamphetamine, they'd drop all sups and they'd dismiss both the driving suspended misdemeanor on that case and a totally separate driving suspended we had a month earlier, September 6th. Oh, a month and a year, 2019 driving suspended speeding ticket. Those would all be dismissed. Is that the understanding, Mr. Tarango?
Yes, Your Honor.
Mr. Miller, have you had a chance to see that offer?
I've seen the offer, Judge. When I went to the jail to speak with Ms. Wen, we had not yet gotten the offer. So I'm wondering if I could just have a breakout with her for just a few minutes.
Yeah, sure. Well, if you could turn your volume down, Mr. Miller, we're having a high volume on your side, but we'll put you, Ms. Wen, in a chat room, breakout room, so you can have a private conversation with Mr. Miller, your attorney. He'll keep you a little bit updated of what's happening, but the decision's going to have to be yours of what you want to do. Are you with me, Ms. Wen?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, hang on then. We're going to get you in a room and we'll be right back with you, about 5 minutes.
Okay.
Is anybody on the Zoom for Albert Crawford? Is anybody on the Zoom for Albert Crawford? Is Albert Crawford connected to this Zoom? Is it Amanda Crowley? I've got somebody on a Galaxy phone, a woman walking around a kitchen, but we can't hear you. Yeah.
Oh,
Now I can hear you. Now that did it.
you.
Okay. Are you Amanda Crowley?
Yes, I am.
Okay. I don't see you now, but I can hear you. Now I see you and hear you. Okay. So, Ms. Crowley, I'm Judge Sara Smolenski, and I have you in front of me on that case that you had that was the domestic violence charge that goes back to June 20. So just say 4 months ago with Jeremy Tribe on Yorkland at the York Creek Apartments.
Yeah.
This is file D20-01543-SM. And when you talked with the prosecuting attorney, they discussed that if you decided to plead to the misdemeanor, Ms. Crowley, domestic violence is a misdemeanor, up to 93 days in jail, up to $500 fine, court costs on top of that. If you go forward today, the decision you make has to be your own. They're recommending that first-time offender program where you're placed on probation for a period of time and you got to stay completely law-abiding. If you have no mess-ups, then it's off your record permanently. It's called an unpublished conviction. Are you with me?
Yes.
You can plead guilty or not guilty. You can have a trial in front of a judge or a jury. You can have an attorney. If you go forward today, it's you and me talking to each other. You're at your house, I'm at the court. There's no attorney for you. You would not have an attorney, and you would not have a trial. When a person pleads guilty, we don't have a trial at all. So then you give up your rights associated with having a trial, like bring in witnesses, cross-examine witnesses, take the stand yourself, be a witness if you wanted to. If you chose not to, your silence cannot be held against you. And you have the right to be presumed innocent until proven guilty beyond, a reasonable doubt. Can you think of any questions that you have so far for me?
Nope.
Are you on probation
Yeah.
or parole right now?
No.
Do you have any other cases that are pending in any other courts?
No, I've never been in trouble before a day in my life.
That's why you qualify for this first-time offender program. And if we go back to June 20th, 4 months ago roughly, and I ask you, how do you want to plead to that domestic violence misdemeanor?
I guess guilty.
Are you guessing or do you really know?
I'm just pleading guilty.
And I appreciate that. And I'm not trying to bug you, but I want to make sure that you believe that whatever happened between you and Jeremy, you could have done things differently where you wouldn't be talking to me right now. Fair enough?
I can't hear anything.
I guess. Yeah.
Well, why don't you tell me why you're pleading guilty?
Because I did rip
Can
the
you tell
necklace
me?
off him. I didn't touch him though, other than that.
I'm not asking if you touched them. Well, let me start like this. When you say guilty, you know that means that you're taking responsibility for wrongdoing. The incident itself on June 20, was it inside the apartment or out?
It was inside.
Were other people there?
No.
Jeremy is somebody you've been in a relationship with and have had kids with,
Yes.
assuming he's an adult man?
Yep.
The two of you were there. What time are we talking?
I don't know. I don't remember it. It was probably between 8 and 9 o'clock.
Are we talking at night?
Yeah.
Do you ever remember having contact with the police?
No, I did not talk to the police.
Okay.
All I
You
can tell
found
you
out
was,
later?
yeah, I ripped his necklace off to get out of the house because he wouldn't let me leave.
Okay. And while I'm not doubting that Jeremy may have a lot of problems himself, you never
believe
got to
me.
talk to the police that night.
No, she called me.
Who's she?
I don't know, whatever police.
Some officer?
Yeah.
You'd been drinking that day, correct?
I had a couple, but he had way more than I did.
Both of you had been drinking? You had been at a friend's house?
Yeah. Well, I'm sure we were at a friend's house. I just don't know whose.
You got into an argument about Father's Day?
I don't know if it was about Father's Day. It was just an argument. I don't know what it was
Do you
about.
remember being... I'm just trying to review the police report. I've never seen it before. Can you mute that, Spruill? We got to mute you, Mr. Spruill. You're way too loud for us. Miss Crowley?
Yeah.
I don't know, like if you're outside your house or if you're doing that for connection purposes. I'm getting dizzy looking at your photo. So could you just set...
hear you?
You what?
I have my phone up to my face because I can't hear very well.
The audio is bad?
No, I think it's just where I'm at.
Okay. Do you ever remember the argument having to do about you wanting to play golf?
No, because I don't play golf.
Okay. I'm not trying to be funny, and you said you ripped his necklace off. Do you ever remember punching him in the face?
I never touched him like that. Never. I would
Okay.
never touch him like that. He'd have marks
Were
if
you
I would have done that.
Were you inside or outside?
We were inside.
Did you ever realize that, did you ever try to call the police yourself?
No, he's quick to call the police. He calls the cops all the time.
Okay. Jeremy told the police he did not want to press charges, but he wanted you to stop assaulting him.
Okay. He's the
Did
one
the
that assaults me,
necklace-
but whatever.
Did the necklace break?
Yeah,
What was your point, you said, to leave the house?
I was trying to leave, and he wouldn't let
You
me
did
leave.
leave. You did leave,
Yeah,
correct?
after I got his necklace off, he finally moved out the way so I could leave.
How many doors are there to your apartment?
You have our apartment door and then the one that comes into the actual building.
So there's more than one door to get in and out of?
Yeah.
Ms. Crowley, today, with this first-time offender program, where you'll be placed on probation, are you pleading guilty by your own decision right now?
Yeah.
And while you may have at the time thought it was your best approach, how many bedrooms are in that apartment?
We have two bedrooms and a loft.
Where were the kids at the time this happened?
I believe they were with a friend of mine for the weekend because she wanted them. So they weren't even here.
So you did have the option to shut yourself in another room.
Well, yeah, I do, but not with him. He will literally break down doors to get to me.
Are you guys still together now?
We can't talk. I mean, we don't see
Are you
each other.
do you intend to continue being in a relationship?
At this point, I don't know.
Yeah.
I just want him to be around his kids. He hasn't seen them. And his kids ask about him all the time.
50% of the population get divorced, whether they're with kids or not. You guys never married, but it's like a divorce with no marriage. You've got to figure out what's the best approach, not just for your kids, of course. If it's an unhealthy relationship, you ought not to continue it. I'm not Oprah. I'm not Dr. Phil. You got to get a counselor and you got to get some help. I'll accept your plea of guilty. You will not get jail. You'll be on probation for 6 months. You've got to make sure that you're following through and not having any problems. If there's problems that you feel threatened, you've got to get help for yourself. It's a $300 fine. Probation is $180. There's a $75 crime victims' right fee. If Jeremy, from what your comments are, is unhealthy in his reactions to you, you guys should not be together as a couple. Get some help. It's not going to help your kids at all to try to pretend everything's okay. Right now, while the case is still pending, I'm going to still say no contact with Jeremy until I find out that it's okay for you guys to have contact. I'm not talking about he can't see the kids. I don't have the problem with the kids going back and forth if it's safe for the kids to do that.
Okay.
You're going to talk with your probation officer. Is apartment 11 where you're living now?
Yeah.
Look for your mail because with COVID, we're going to be sending the mail.
Okay.
All right, that's it.
Thank
you. All right, thank you for zooming in.
Yep, bye.
All right. Mr. Miller, we're back to you with Ms. Wen. Mr. Miller, can you hear me okay?
I can. Sorry about that, Judge. I was
That's all right.
on a phone call.
Did you get a chance to talk to Ms. Wen?
I did, Your Honor.
Okay. So tell me what's happening with Ms. Wen's case.
Thank you, Your Honor. We are going to waive the preliminary examination, preserve the following offer from the people upon a successful plea and sentence as charged to count 1, possession of methamphetamines. The prosecution would agree to drop the supplemental information as well as dismiss 2 driving while license suspended tickets as well as a speeding ticket.
Okay. Ms. Wen, right now, when you decide to waive this prelim, that means there's no testimony taken in front of me. I don't really know the details of the case other than you got charged with this possession charge, possession of methamphetamine. But you waive your preliminary exam. It preserves the offer that the prosecutor has talked to you and your attorney about. Your attorney will continue to talk to the prosecutor and discuss the case as it proceeds, but the case leaves our court and goes to the higher court, which is circuit court. You'd have a different judge at the circuit court, and at some point you'll have to make a decision how to go forward with your case there. Right now, today, there's 2 documents we're going to be sending to Mr. Miller. One's the waiver of the preliminary exam. One's the waiver of a circuit court arraignment. You get arraigned by the circuit judge, but you can waive that so you don't have to physically go in front of the new judge. We just say not guilty on all charges. So the case moves on to circuit court with a plea of not guilty. So far, do you understand that, Ms. Wen?
Yes, Your Honor.
And do you give Mr. Miller the authority to sign just those 2 documents on your behalf, waiving the preliminary exam and waiving the arraignment at circuit court?
Yes, Your Honor.
So you would want to stay in contact with Mr. Miller as the case progresses, Ms. Wen? You'll want to stay in contact with him if you have questions or concerns. He'll definitely get a hold of you when the new date, the next date that you have to do anything, will be at circuit court, probably again by Zoom. Do you understand?
Yes, Your Honor.
So, Mr. Miller, my clerk's going to email you those 2 documents, and we'd like you to send them back to us today.
I get them right back to you, Judge.
Perfect. Any other questions that we need to cover, Mr. Miller?
Yeah, thank you, Your Honor. I would like to address the issue of bond, if I may.
Okay, let's do that.
Right now, the bond is set at a 10,000 cash surety bond. I'm going to ask the court to convert that to a 10,000 10% bond for the following reasons. This is a drug case. You know, she's obviously got a drug problem. It's not assaultive. She lives up in Cedar Springs. She has a stable release address. She receives unemployment, but she does some odd jobs. And then there's also some other things that will be taking place as this case is pending that I don't want to place on the record, but I think the court understands what I'm talking about. So that's going to be taking place as well. And she needs to be out on bond. So if she's able to, she's got $1,000, she can post that. She's got some skin in the game that gives her plenty of incentive to come back. And again, it's a drug case. It's not an assault murder or a very serious crime. It's still serious, but it's not as serious as some that we see. And she'll have some skin in the game. She's got a release address. She's going to be maintaining contact with me, reporting to court services dropping. So for those reasons, I'm going to ask the court to convert the bond to 10,000, 10%. Thank you.
Where did Judge go? She ran away? Where'd she go?
I think she might be talking with her clerk.
Connect. Okay.
There we go. Got her.
We got disconnected somehow. I don't know how, but Mr. Miller, I'll
Yes.
grant your request to make the bond 10,000, 10%.
Thank
Ms.
you.
Wen, you've got to realize you got to report to court services if you bond out. No drugs or alcohol, and you have to test. If you
Yes, ma'am.
violate any of those, you're back in. Whoever's
Yes, ma'am.
posting the money for you, make sure you follow through, because it's a lot of money to post if you have any idea of not following the rules. Understood?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, all set then. Thank you on the Wen matter. We're adjourned.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Okay, you bet.
Hey, Amanda,
Yes,
when you get out, give me a call right away, okay?
I will, I promise.
Thanks.
Wrong, Amanda. Okay.
Yeah, sorry, Amanda.
Okay, that's all right. We got it. Okay, Mr. Sproul? Antonio Sproul, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
I'm Judge Sara Smolenski, and I have you in front of me on what's referred to as a plea on domestic violence, Mr. Sproul. A domestic
ma'am.
violence is a criminal misdemeanor. It's up to 93 days in jail. It's up to $500 fine, court costs on top of that. Mr. Sproul, you talked to the prosecuting attorney, and they indicated that if you decided to plead to this case with this Brianna Benavides, they'd give you credit for time you already served in jail, but you'd have to pay full restitution. Does that make sense? Do you understand that?
Yes, ma'am.
You do have the right, Mr. Sproul, to plead guilty or not guilty. You do have the right to have a trial in front of a judge or a jury. You do have the right to have an attorney. If you go forward today, Mr. Sproul, it's you and me. You don't have a lawyer and you're not going to have a trial. You'd give up your rights associated with having a trial, like to bring in witnesses, cross-examine witnesses, take the stand yourself, be a witness if you wanted to. If you chose not to, your silence cannot be held against you. And you have the right to be presumed innocent until proven guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. Any questions so far?
No, ma'am.
Okay. So what I'm saying as it relates to this case is how, when you look back on this incident with whatever happened to Brianna, June 10 at the York Creek Apartments, how do you want to plead to the misdemeanor charge called domestic violence?
I will plead guilty.
And you're pleading guilty by your own decision?
Yes, ma'am.
Nobody's making you do that, Mr. Sproul?
No, ma'am.
Briefly tell me how Brianna is connected to you.
She was my girlfriend for over a year, but we are no longer together.
Okay. On the date of that June 10 incident at York Creek, who actually lived there?
We actually both lived there, but she was
Okay.
she was the only person on the.
She's the one
name
on the
of
lease?
Yeah, because
Okay.
I didn't want my name on the lease.
All right, I get it. And so were you just the two of you home at that time?
Yes, ma'am.
What happened that causes you to say I'm guilty of domestic violence with her?
That I just don't want to pretty much deal with anything court-wise, so I'm pleading guilty.
Can you talk about the details of the date, June 10? Do you and she get into a verbal argument?
Yeah, we got into
Nobody else is there?
No, ma'am. We got into a
Do you stay? I'm sorry.
You're right. Yeah, we got into a verbal argument about my car.
Yeah. About your car?
Yeah, because I was going to leave and my car was locked in the garage. And
Okay.
we just got in an argument about my car. Just turned.
Did the police get called?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you remember that your verbal argument turned physical and that there was an altercation between the two of you?
I do.
So she was trying to make you not leave and you wanted to leave.
Yes, ma'am.
So you used physical force to get out or get by her, etc.?
She was actually putting her hands on me and I was pretty much just trying to get by her and leave. And
do you remember her getting caught in the door?
I do.
Okay. Did she go to the ground?
She did not.
Okay. You knew the door was going to hit her? You kicked the door, correct?
Yes, I did. I didn't know she was behind the door.
So you're trying to say that you kicked the door without knowing she was there?
I didn't know that she was standing right behind the door. She was.
Do you ever remember going for her phone?
Yes, I do.
What does her phone have to do with anything if you're just trying to leave?
I do not recall.
Why do you need to grab her phone?
I have no idea. It was just.
Do you remember going for her purse?
No, I do not. I don't believe that I.
Do you ever remember physically grabbing her after the door kick? Do you ever remember physically grabbing her?
Nope.
She was saying that the car keys were in the purse and you were trying to get the car keys out of the purse. She had the purse. And that you grabbed her and lifted her. That you grabbed her and lifted her off the ground, shaking her, trying to get the purse?
That sounds about right, except for that.
Okay.
She had the car keys in her hand and there was no purse involved.
All right. Are you pleading guilty to this domestic violence by your own decision?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you guys have any kids?
No, ma'am.
Have you been charged with this before?
No, ma'am. It's first offense.
Okay. I'm setting it up for sentencing because I know nothing about it. I've never talked to her. They're asking for restitution, and I don't know if that's the door at the apartment complex that got broken.
That is for the door.
The door?
I talked to, yes.
Okay. We'll have to check that out, but you're going to be given a date. What's the address we have for you now? Where you can get mail.
5634 Buchanan.
Yep. Is it an apartment or just a house?
It is a house.
Is it GR?
Yes, ma'am.
And what's the zip code?
49548.
48, you think?
Yes, ma'am.
We'll contact you at that address once we find out anything about how much the door cost or whatever.
Alrighty.
Meanwhile, don't have contact with her. What I hear you telling me is you're no longer a couple
No, we're not.
and you have no kids together.
Nope.
Okay. So you did a good job hooking up with us today, Mr. Spruill. You'll get a letter in the mail from us when we need to talk, you and me. Again, finalize this. I just don't have the information to do it today, so they'll do it a few weeks out. Look for your mail.
Alrighty. I appreciate it.
All right, peace. Thanks for zooming in.
Thank you. Have a great day.
All right, you bet. Mr. Dantel Terrell,
Yes.
you had your case scheduled for today and you were represented by the Public Defender's Office. Your case was set for a preliminary exam today on a charge of carrying a concealed weapon, and already you've been bound over to the circuit court on that with Attorney Don Pebley. Do you remember talking to Mr. Pebley about it?
Yeah, last
Last week or whenever? Well,
Yeah,
I really appreciate that you hooked up with Zoom, but it's not necessary for you to hook up today. This was your original date, and I really appreciate you contacting us, but because the case was already bound over to circuit court, Mr. Pebley's gonna get in contact with you with a new date that you're gonna have at circuit court.
Oh, so
So
today,
so today there's nothing with us. Go ahead.
I'm sorry about
No,
that.
don't be sorry.
I didn't-
Like I said, I appreciate you taking the time to even hook up with us. But that's why Mr. Pebley isn't here right now, because we already did what we needed to do with your case. So today, we made today unnecessary, if that's a way to say it. So I appreciate that, but you get a hold of him. You know how to call him if you need him, right? He'll let you know when the new date downtown is set, probably again by Zoom. But
All
he'll
right.
be in contact with you, okay?
Yeah.
Okay, all set then. Thanks a lot.
All right.
Mr. Terrell, you can unconnect, disconnect.
All right.
Yeah, all set. Thank you. Mr. Baker, can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can.
Thanks. Brendan is your first name.
Baker's-
Baker is your last. Okay, I gotcha. Mr. Baker, I'm Judge Sara Smolenski.
Nice to
I
meet
have
you.
you in front of me, for what's called the probable cause conference today on your file D20 02192FT. It's the case with the fleeing and eluding fourth degree that
Yeah.
they're alleging happened this summer, August 14, by that West River Drive Lamoureux address, Plainfield Township. We also had a totally separate case that was about 10 days later for a driving an ORV, like an off-road vehicle in a public highway area, driving suspended. That's set for a pretrial today, those two misdemeanors. Mr. Miller is here representing you on this felony case for the fleeing and eluding. They call it a felony. It's a 2-year felony, but they sometimes will call it a high court misdemeanor. And it sounds like some of the discussion that Mr. Miller has had, I don't know if he's had a chance to talk to you, but
No, I
he's
thought-
talked to the,
Attorney than him. That's why I was confused. I didn't see the one that was assigned to me on the paper that I have somewhere.
oh,
I had
okay.
called message. He never got back to me either.
All right.
Hey,
well,
Judge,
we're gonna
if
put
I
you in a
if
chat
I could
room.
explain it.
We're gonna put you in a chat room. Go
Yeah.
ahead.
Apparently, Kellen Dotson from our office had this
Yeah.
case. So Mr. Dotson is the one who talked to Mr. Baker and up to this point. So he's been his attorney up to this
Sure.
point. Chris Denny reassigned it to me. So I'm going to need just a moment if I could. I'd like to
Yeah.
talk with Felix first, and then if I could get a breakout with Mr. Baker.
All right. Let me just say that the offer I see right now is as charged on the fleeing fourth, dismiss the charges on the other case that I talked about that were later in August. We'll put you first in a meeting room, Mr. Miller, with Mr. Tarango, and then let you guys talk. And then Mr. Baker, I'll just say, Mr. Miller is the attorney that's now taking over for Kellen Dotson that you first met, and Mr. Tarango is the prosecutor. So they're going to talk. Tell what? Mr. Felix, Tarango, we can't get email right now. Her email's off, so just hang tight, Mr. Baker. You're in the right place, and when they're done talking, then I'll let you talk privately.